Speaking of political action committees and paying to influence votes, Sam Bankman-Fried arrested the day he was supposed to testify before Congress virtually, presumably while not playing video games like he did the day before. Arrested. Some say conveniently. Some say conveniently because he will no longer be able to testify, at least for the time being. Some people do believe the arrest was carried out in order to prevent him from testifying because his testimony would have been terrible, and we'll see what happens in the long run. There's been a long rash of unfortunate events plaguing the crypto world, and there's been a long rash of unfortunate events plaguing, people who might have dirt on politicians. And I don't like saying it because I don't like looking or even thinking like I'm wishing that in the world. I don't like putting that juju out there. But there's people out there who are suggesting that, we'll see where he is in a year. But at least for this week, he's not testifying before Congress. So he gets arrested. He gets sued. And we covered the lawsuit the other day. I put the clip of that section on Viva Clips. Sued by the SEC, 2 counts of fraud, and some very damning allegations in there. That lawsuit, the SEC lawsuit, which named political contributions, it referenced political contributions, substantial political contributions 4 times, without mentioning to whom specifically or to which party at large. Democrats. Lots and lots and lots to Democrats. Whether it's 80 million to Democrats and 3.5 million to Republican for primaries, it's a lot. And whether it's at least 70 million, as per what we know definitively, 40 million from Sam Bankman-Fried and 30 some odd million from other executives, or as Elon suggests, closer to $1 billion, it's a lot. And so although SBF has been arrested, was not able to testify before Congress, other people were. And I pulled this clip. I was going to pull the naked clip, but I like Robert Gouveia, and I like his commentary.
But what about
So Robert Gouveia, Watching the Watchers, goes live every night. I think it's 6. I get mixed up, 6 or 7 o'clock. Robert Gouveia, Watching the Watchers, phenomenal. He's got these mind maps, which are phenomenally interactive. So I pulled the clip from his commentary of the hearing, but listen to this.
But what about the money that has not been recovered? What about the family? Is there evidence that there were other actors involved? The answer is yes. Mr. Ray III answers a question in Congress saying, yeah, SBF's family, yeah, they got a nice chunk of that money.
Is there any evidence of his parents' involvement in the operations?
We're going to get to this.
We're investigating that, as well as any other, players in the
Email, Slack, Signal.
It's billions of records. It's a very vibrant environment.
So I hear that.
I presumed everybody knew this already, but Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, one of them's a Stanford professor, another one, Stanford professors, well politically connected lawyers who draft, policy, are involved in policy. So much so that Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, said that, when he invested in FTX, when he decided to become the paid ambassador, and we're going to get to that, he was encouraged, reassured by the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, who are involved in regulatory compliance, who are lawyers, Stanford professors, well, they're in this also. So it's got to be clean. It's got to be up to par. Now the question is, did his parents get any money from this?
You haven't discovered that? I mean, it would seem interesting that that they didn't either give legal advice or business advice or parental advice.
I've been asking this question as well when I went through the lawsuit. Who structured this corporate structure? Who structured this web of companies? FTX, Alameda, his subsidiary, FTX or the org, the fund, the charitable arm of FTX. All of these other companies, these web of companies where money was going around from and to. Who structured it? I can tell you one thing. I don't think it was SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried himself.
SBF's parents evidently are, very high up lawyers, people at Stanford, people who are in the regulatory finance area, who've talked about cryptocurrencies, who are sort of in this industry. And this is one of the reasons why people like Kevin O'Leary, who
Okay.
is one of the
I knew this before. I said it before Robert did, but yes, Robert is covering it as well.
individuals on Shark Tank, why he said that he trusted SBF and FTX. I believe we played the clip here where he said, well, actually, I trust this organization because Sam's parents are compliance lawyers.
It can't
so
go
nothing
wrong.
could possibly go wrong with any of these cases.
Maybe.
Well, certainly, clearly, and I think in our first day papers, we indicated that that Mr. Bankman had given legal advice.
Okay. Had he been an employee of FTX? Has it been?
Employee is such a red herring. The father gave legal advice. He didn't do it for free, guaranteed. And by the way, there's a good reason why he wouldn't do it for free. If he gets a malpractice claim for the advice, well, you want to make sure that your insurance covers it. So you want to make sure it's within the context of legal representation. His dad gave legal advice.
Reported?
I don't know if he actually had an employee status.
He might have been a consultant. It might have been a one-off. It might have been a per mandate. Wasn't an employee. Might have been an independent contractor, independent consultant.
But he certainly received payments from the family. Did receive payments.
Okay. That sounds like employment to me. You got a payment for
Family
okay.
got
Well,
payments.
I raise that because on December 8th of
much?
2020,
Look at that little smile he's got too. How much money went over there? And he kind of has a little De Niro look, doesn't he? He kind of looks like Mr. Robert De Niro. He sort of talks, you know what I mean?
Robert is right. He does look like Robert De Niro. They certainly got paid. Mamacita. That's not going to be good. How much did they get paid? There was the question, by the way, where else did SBF funnel out these monies? The company was worth, 30 some odd billion, and it's worth nothing now. And they were throwing around not just potentially $1 billion for political donations, research. What's the word I'm looking at? Philanthropic entities. You know, when the shit hit the fan and SBF goes down, Washington Post, New York Times, they're lamenting the fact that SBF just wanted to prevent the next pandemic. Like, is it when you see how the media builds up? I'm going to say an alleged fraudster, but I think it's quite clear that it's substantial fraud. When you see how the media builds up an alleged fraudster like SBF into a philanthropist who all he wanted to do was prevent the next pandemic, do you not think they might have done something similar, mutatis mutandis, with, I don't know, another philanthropist who just wants to prevent the next pandemic and solve world population problems? Bill Gates? If it's been done once, it's been done more than once. It's like, it's a fundamental rule of life. If it's happened once, it's happened before. If somebody did it, chances are they did it before. When a dog bites your dog and the owner says, oh, that's the first time he did it. No, it's not. No, it's not. You only get to say that once. So the family was paid. Billions of dollars was going out of this company. SBF, for those of you who don't know, FTX is taking in client money for the exchange. It's either being funneled to Alameda, a research company, or it's actually just being directed directly to Alameda because they give the wire transfer information to people who want to put monies for the cryptocurrency into FTX. Send it directly to Alameda. Then from Alameda, it goes to personal expenses, personal properties, family payment, now we know, political donations, now we know, philanthropic donations, we know now. There was a question, for those of you who don't know, about his parents. It's an amazing thing. I didn't pull up the first article. There was an article in Vox from 2020 that says the political action committee that you've never heard about that raised $20 million in 2020 for the Democrats. This is from the Stanford Daily, and it's from January 16, 2020. Get this video out of here. Stanford Connected Fundraising Group wants to raise $140 million for Democrats in 2020. They didn't get there in 2020, but they got there in 2022. How? In 2018, the secretive Stanford Connected Democratic Fundraising Group, Mind the Gap, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now I'm wondering if I've seen this, and I've been thinking Marjorie Taylor Greene on Twitter. Mind the Gap, in 2018, they funneled over 20, and by the way, they're using the word funneled, not me. funneled over $20 million towards competitive U.S. House Representative elections and get out the vote organizations. In 2020, MTG wants to increase that number to $140 million. MTG is led by Barbara Freed, the William W. and Gertrude H. Saunders Professor of Law, Paul Brest, an Emeritus Professor of Law and Director of Law. Okay, Graham Gottlieb. Of the three, Gottlieb has the most direct policy experience, having formerly served in junior roles in President Barack Obama, yada, yada. Over the 3-month period during 2018 election cycle, MTG built a donor network of over 800 people. Something tells me that network was a little bigger in 2022. I wonder why. I have my theories. Raised $11 million for 20 undervalued and underfunded House races, and raised $9 million for Get Out the Vote organization in 100 competitive races, according to leaked MTG memo signed by Freed, Brest, Gottlieb, yada. They did not respond to requests for comment. Freed, Brest, and Gottlieb wrote in the memo that MTG hopes to avoid media attention and reduce the chances of Republicans responding with early funding to counteract MTG investments in otherwise off-the-radar races, or maybe to not have too much scrutiny as to where those monies are coming from. Maybe, I don't know. That's my just asking the question out loud. According to the memo, MTG hopes to target states and national elections, yada yada. MTG intends to raise as much as $100 million for mail-based voter registration, $30 million for Get Out the Vote efforts, and $10 million for direct campaign funding, totaling $140 million. Yeah, that's right. Overall, with a minimum suggested contribution of $40,000. Let me just do one thing here. Mind the Gap 2020 votes. I think they only got 20 million in 2020. Here, let's see this. They plan to get 140. I think they only got 20 million. So how Silicon Valley's secretive donor group plans to beat Trump. Sounds like a cabal of well-funded people, changing laws, controlling the flow of information. They raised $20 million for Democrat causes and congressional candidates in advance of the midterms. But the group has a far greater ambitions in the presidential cycle. Mind the Gap told prospective donors last fall it had already raised at least $35 million in political contributions. So I don't know what they got to in 2020, but Mind the Gap, 140 million, New York Post. They got to 140 million. They got to 140 million in 2022. Unless I've misread everything here. Get out of here with that video. SBF's mother, Stanford law professor Barbara Freed, also is co-founder of left-wing political action committee Mind the Gap, which has raised reported $140 million to help Democrats win throughout the same Get Out the Vote grift. Oh, maybe that was in 2020. Either way, they wanted to avoid scrutiny. They can avoid scrutiny no longer. They shall be scrutinized. Maybe they won't. So that was one part of it. Now we're finding out, at the very least now, Bankman-Fried's dad got paid. The family got paid. We don't know how much. We don't know for what. But they were not the only people who got paid.